He said it under oath, right hand raised, left hand on nothing, because there was no Bible, just the quiet weight of a promise to tell the truth. And he looked at my courtroom, a room full of people, a stenographer recording every syllable, and he said, "I have never seen this woman in my life." The woman was sitting 12 feet away from him. She had cleaned his personal office by hand 5 nights a week for 22 years. She knew which drawer he kept his reading glasses in. She knew he liked the orchid on his windowsill, watered on Tuesdays and Fridays. She knew he left crumbs from a specific brand of almond biscuit on his keyboard every single evening. And he looked at the room and said he had never seen her. He said it with the calm, practiced ease of a man who had spent his whole career deciding which people counted and which ones didn't. And for a moment, one awful, suspended moment, it almost worked. The room almost believed him, because why would a man that successful, that composed, that expensive, lie about something so easily checked? Because he'd never been checked. That's why. In 61 years, no one had ever held up a mirror and said, "We see you lying." 17 minutes later, I was holding in my hands the reason he should never have said those words. Her name was Marisol Ochoa, 58 years old. She had emigrated from Peru 31 years ago, alone, 27 years old, with a nursing degree that didn't transfer, and a willingness to do the work that was available. The work that was available was cleaning, so she cleaned. For 31 years, office buildings, law firms, medical practices, the invisible shift, the one that starts when the last employee locks the door and ends before the first one unlocks it in the morning. Marisol existed in the gaps. She was there when nobody was watching and gone before anybody arrived. And the only evidence she'd been there at all was that the floors shone and the bins were empty and the coffee rings had vanished from the conference table. 22 of those years was spent in one building, the downtown headquarters of a real estate development company owned by a man named Conrad Halsey. Conrad Halsey was 61. He'd built a company that developed luxury properties, condominiums, hotel conversions, mixed-use towers. His name was on the lobby wall in brushed metal letters. His corner office was on the 14th floor. And for 22 years, 5 nights a week, Marisol Ochoa had let herself in with a key card, emptied his trash, vacuumed his carpet, wiped his desk, watered his orchid, and let herself out. 22 years, 5 nights a week, 50 weeks a year. That is not a job description. That is a quarter of a human life, approximately 5,500 nights spent caring alone in silence for a space that belonged to someone who would eventually sit in a courtroom and decide under oath that none of it had happened, that she had never been there, that he had never seen her, that 5,000 nights of her labor had left no impression on his memory at all. The lawsuit was over wages. Not a fortune, not a windfall. The cleaning contract for Halsey's building had been structured through a subcontracting company, the kind of arrangement where the building owner pays a company, the company pays the cleaners, and nobody has to look the worker in the eye when the math doesn't add up. Over the previous 3 years, the subcontractor had been shorting the cleaners systematically. Unpaid overtime, skipped holiday rates, deductions for supplies the cleaners were buying themselves. Marisol was owed just under $9,000. She tried to resolve it quietly. She'd gone to the subcontractor. She'd been ignored. She'd gone to building management. They told her to take it up with the subcontractor. A perfect circle of deflection, everyone pointing at someone else, nobody responsible, and at the center of it, a 58-year-old woman who had mopped 10,000 floors, and was asking for money she had already earned. She filed a wage claim, and here is the detail that Conrad Halsey's legal team spent considerable effort trying to prevent from mattering. His company was named on the cleaning contract as a co-responsible party. His attorneys argued he should be nowhere near this proceeding. They lost that argument, which meant Conrad Halsey himself personally was called to testify about the working arrangement in his own building. He could have settled. He could have written a check for $9,000, which to a man like him is a restaurant dinner, and never set foot in my courtroom. But settling would have meant acknowledging the claim, and acknowledging the claim would have meant acknowledging the woman. And that apparently was the one thing he was not prepared to do. That's how they ended up in the same room. The man whose orchid she'd watered for 22 years, and the woman he was about to erase with 5 words. Marisol arrived early. She wore a dark dress, clean and pressed, her gray-streaked hair pulled into a low braid. She carried a folder, neat, organized, and she sat at the plaintiff's table with the composure of a woman who had spent decades being invisible and had learned to carry herself with dignity, regardless of whether anyone was looking. Her attorney was a legal aid lawyer named Sophia Tran, young, meticulous, and angry in the way that makes certain lawyers very good at their jobs. Conrad Halsey arrived with 2 attorneys. He wore a suit that cost more than Marisol's monthly rent, and he entered my courtroom the way men like him enter rooms, expecting the architecture to rearrange itself around him. He didn't look at Marisol, not a glance, not a flicker of recognition. Now, I've been watching people enter courtrooms my entire career, and I've learned to read arrivals the way some people read poker faces. Most defendants who know the plaintiff steal a look, even a hostile one, even a contemptuous one. The absence of a look is its own signal. It means the person has decided in advance that the other party is not worth acknowledging. That is a choice, and it tells me something. Halsey's legal team opened with a motion to dismiss him from the claim entirely. Their argument? Mr. Halsey had no direct relationship with the cleaning staff. The subcontractor managed all janitorial personnel. Mr. Halsey could not reasonably be expected to know the individual workers servicing the building. He had no knowledge of their schedules, their compensation, or even their identities. That last phrase, or even their identities, was the seed of everything that followed, because it opened a door Halsey's attorneys should have kept shut. Sophia Tran asked respectfully to question Mr. Halsey on that specific claim. I allowed it. Sophia Tran was careful. She started small. Mr. Halsey, how long have you occupied your corner office on the 14th floor? 23 years, he said. And in that time, has your office been cleaned? He almost smiled, condescending. Of course. Nightly? I assume so. It's always clean when I arrive. And who cleans it? I have no idea. The building contracts with a service. I don't manage that. So you've never interacted with the person who cleans your office? No. Never seen them? No. In 23 years? I work during the day. They work at night. Our paths don't cross. Sophia Tran nodded. Then she turned and gestured toward Marisol. Mr. Halsey, do you recognize this woman? He looked at Marisol for the first time. Looked at her the way you look at a piece of furniture you've been asked to identify. Blank. Practiced. No, he said. I have never seen this woman in my life. 5 words. Under oath. On the record. The courtroom was quiet, and I watched Marisol Ochoa's face when he said it. She didn't flinch. She didn't cry. Something crossed her eyes. Not surprise, not hurt, something older and wearier than both. The tired recognition of a woman who had spent 22 years in a man's most private space and had always known, somewhere, that to him she might as well have been a ghost. But here's the thing about ghosts. They don't usually bring evidence. Sophia Tran said, Your Honor, I'd like to enter Plaintiff's Exhibit D into the record. She opened Marisol's folder. Inside, arranged in clear plastic sleeves, were notes, handwritten notes, dozens and dozens of them, small pieces of paper, sticky notes, torn corners of letterhead, written in the same masculine handwriting, the same blue ink, the same hand. Marisol, orchid needs water. Missed Friday. Thanks. M, don't vacuum under the desk today. Cables are loose. Marisol, left a package on the chair. Please don't move it. M, the light in the bathroom is flickering again. Can you report it? Thank you. Marisol, Happy New Year. C.H. Note after note after note, spanning years, addressed to Marisol by name, signed C.H. or C, or sometimes just a dash, in handwriting that was about to be very easy to verify. Marisol Ochoa, the woman Conrad Halsey swore he had never seen, had been receiving handwritten notes from him for over a decade. He left them on his desk for her every night. She found them when she came in to clean, and she kept every single one. She kept them because, and this is the part that undid me, she told me later that they were proof somebody knew she was real. That in a job where you're invisible, where you work when nobody's watching and leave no trace except cleanliness, a note with your name on it is evidence that you exist, that someone saw you, even if it was just water the orchid. She kept them in a shoebox under her bed for 11 years, not as evidence for a lawsuit she never planned to file, as proof she mattered. And now they were in my courtroom in clear plastic sleeves, in the folder of a woman a man had just sworn he'd never seen. I looked at Conrad Halsey. His face had changed. The composure was still there. Men like Halsey don't lose composure easily. They've spent too long building it. But underneath it, something was recalculating, fast. I said, Mr. Halsey, you've testified under oath that you have never seen Ms. Ochoa. I'm now looking at approximately 70 handwritten notes addressed to Marisol or M in what appears to be a consistent hand left on the desk of your personal office over a span of years. Can you explain the discrepancy? His lead attorney leaned in, whispering urgently. Halsey waved him off. That same gesture of a man who believes he can talk his way through anything. The gesture that in my experience usually means the next 60 seconds are going to be catastrophic. He said, I may have left operational notes for the cleaning staff. That doesn't mean I know who she is personally. I leave notes for the building engineer, too. I don't know his name either. Sophia Tran was ready. Your Honor, Note 14, dated March 2019. I read it aloud. Marisol, thank you for the birthday card. That was thoughtful. C.H. The room made a sound. Sophia Tran, Note 31, December 2021. I read it. M. Merry Christmas. I left something in the top drawer for you. C.H. And then Note 47, September 2023. I read it. Marisol, I heard about your son's graduation. Congratulations. He must be very proud of you. C.H. I set the notes down and looked at Conrad Halsey. Mr. Halsey, I said, you congratulated this woman on her son's graduation by name. You thanked her for a birthday card she gave you. You left her a Christmas gift. And then you sat in this chair under oath and told me you have never seen her in your life. He didn't answer. His lead attorney's pen had stopped moving. The stenographer's fingers paused on the keys for half a second. The unconscious hesitation of a person who knows the next words are going to matter. I need to be very precise with you right now, I said, because you are under oath. And what you said 13 minutes ago is on the record. And what I'm holding in my hands directly contradicts it. So I'm going to ask you one more time, and I'd encourage you to answer carefully. Do you know Marisol Ochoa? The silence stretched. His attorneys were rigid. The courtroom waited. And then Conrad Halsey said something that was, I think, more honest than anything he intended. He said, "She cleaned my office. That's all she did. That's all she was. That's all she was." Not even a denial anymore. Just a confession dressed as dismissal. She wasn't someone he'd never seen. She was someone who didn't count. The lie wasn't that he didn't know her. The lie was that knowing her should matter. I want to pause here and tell you why this one cut me differently than most. I have seen cruelty in this courtroom. I have seen people steal, lie, threaten. But the kind of cruelty that says, "I see you every day, and I have decided you don't exist," that's a different thing. It's colder. It doesn't need anger or malice. It just needs a person to look at another person and conclude, without drama, that they're furniture. Conrad Halsey hadn't forgotten Marisol. He hadn't confused her with someone else. He knew exactly who she was. He'd written her name 70 times. He just believed, genuinely believed, that a cleaning woman was so fundamentally beneath him that claiming he'd never seen her was not a lie, but a category correction. She didn't count as a person he'd seen. She was part of the room. That's not a mistake. That's a world view. And it's the world view of a lot of people who would never say it out loud, which is why Conrad Halsey's 5 words landed so hard, because he did say it out loud, under oath, and the record caught it. I ruled. The perjury question I referred for further proceedings, because a man who swears under oath that he has never seen someone and is then contradicted by 70 handwritten notes bearing his initials has a problem that goes beyond my courtroom. On the wage claim itself, the evidence was clear. Marisol Ochoa was owed every dollar she'd claimed. The subcontractor's records confirmed the pattern of underpayment. The building owner's co-responsibility under the contract was established. Full back wages awarded. Penalties for the systematic underpayment awarded. The total came to just over $14,000. The original $9,000 plus penalties the law provides when wage theft is found to be part of a pattern. $14,000 for 22 years. That ratio should make you angry. It makes me angry, and I've had decades to get used to numbers like it. Before I closed, I turned to Marisol. I said, "Ms. Ochoa, I want to say something about those notes. You kept them for 11 years, not as evidence, not because you planned for this day. You kept them because they had your name on them. And in a job where you are invisible, your name written down was proof you were real." She nodded quietly. I said, "You were always real. You were real at 11 p.m. when you watered that orchid. You were real at midnight when you scrubbed the coffee rings off the conference table. You were real at 2 a.m. when you locked the door and walked to your car in an empty parking garage. You were real every single night for 22 years. And the fact that the man whose office you kept immaculate chose to pretend otherwise does not diminish a single minute of it. It diminishes him." Marisol Ochoa looked at me, and for the first time, I saw her composure crack, not break, just a hairline fracture. Her chin trembled for a second. Then she steadied it the way she'd steadied everything for 31 years. And she said, "I knew he knew my name, Your Honor. Every night I saw the note, and I knew. I just didn't know if it would matter to anyone else." It mattered. It mattered to this court, and it's on the record now, permanently, that it mattered. Conrad Halsey's attorneys escorted him out through a side door. He did not look at Marisol on his way out. Old habits, I suppose. But here's what happened in the hallway, and I heard about it from my bailiff later. Marisol was walking toward the elevator, her folder under her arm. The folder with the notes, the shoebox evidence, the proof she existed, and a young woman from the gallery caught up to her, a woman in her 20s, business attire, who had been watching the whole proceeding. She said, "I work on the 9th floor of his building. I've never spoken to you, but I've seen your cart in the hallway every night when I work late. I just wanted to say, I know your name now, and I'm not going to forget it." Marisol smiled, a real smile, the first one I think she'd had all day. That's the thing about being seen. Once someone says your name out loud, it tends to spread. If Marisol's story moved you, the most powerful thing you can do with it is pass it on. Leave a comment. Tell someone. Let it travel, because there's a person cleaning an office right now, at this hour, whose name nobody in that building knows. And a story like this is how we start to change that. And if you want to follow along with more of these, you're welcome to become a member of the channel. It's a way to hear the next one a little sooner. No pressure either way. Watching and sharing is already the whole thing. Now tell me something in the comments, and be honest. Conrad Halsey left 70 handwritten notes to a woman he swore he'd never seen. He knew her name, he knew about her son, he wished her Merry Christmas, and then he sat in a witness chair and erased her. So here's my question. Is there someone in your life you see every day but have never actually seen? The person who cleans your office, drives your bus, stocks your shelves, watches your door. Do you know their name? If you don't, go find out tomorrow. Tell me in the comments when you do. Conrad Halsey wrote Marisol 70 times and then swore he'd never seen her. She brought every note, and only one of them left that courtroom erased from the record. It wasn't the cleaning woman. Dramatization for storytelling and education, not legal advice or reporting.